core action value number 4 is courage. Winston Churchill said, "Courage is the most important of all virtues," by which he meant values, because it is the one that makes all of the others possible. And the British writer C.S. Lewis took it one step further. He said, "Courage is all of the other virtues at the point where they are tested." And we've seen courage woven throughout this course already, haven't we? It takes courage to be authentic. The poet E.E. Cummings said, "It takes courage to be who you are in a world that's trying to make you be somebody else." It takes courage to live with integrity. When Sharon Watkins blew the whistle at Enron, it took a lot of courage for her to stand up to the tidal wave of other people telling her not to. And it takes courage to go through your life and be awake and aware, to be objective about yourself and others, to be honest with yourself, as opposed to just going through life on autopilot like this. So courage really is, underpins all of the other values in a lot of important ways. And let's be very clear about what courage is and is not. Courage is not the absence of fear. Scott Peck, who wrote the book The Road Less Traveled, said the absence of fear is not courage, it's brain damage. Fear is a natural, hardwired human condition. And the challenge is not to make it go away. The challenge is to grow strong enough that you can stand up to it, that you can confront it. You know the t-shirts that say "No fear"? I'd get sued, but I'd love to do my own. No fear, no courage. Big fear, big courage. Because that's what courage really is. It is standing up to fear. And you know, the bigger your dreams, the bigger the challenges you're facing, the more likely it is that you're going to face that sort of fear. Something else. Courage is not an emotion. Forrest Church wrote a book on courage, and he said, when people do really brave things, they don't feel courage, they feel fear. And it's true, isn't it? You know, think of the firefighter running into a burning building to save a kid. He's not saying, "Oh, I feel so brave today, I'm going to run in and save that kid." He's scared to death. But he's doing what he has to do in spite of the fear. He's standing up to the fear. And you know, that principle applies at a broader level in our organizations. Dr. Deming, the guru of total quality management, one of his 14 points of TQM, total quality management, was drive fear out of the workplace. And he said that for a very good reason. When there's a lot of fear, quality suffers. People don't want to stop the assembly line if they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. They don't want to call a timeout in a surgical procedure if they're afraid they're going to get yelled at by the surgeon. When you have a high level of fear, people aren't creative. They don't challenge each other. And so he said it for very good reasons. The challenge is, though, that you cannot drive fear out of the workplace. Remember, the absence of fear is brain damage. Your challenge is to make sure people are afraid of the right thing. If people are more afraid of the boss than they are of the competition, eventually the competition wins. If people are more afraid of losing a customer or losing their job than of losing a customer, eventually they tend to behave in ways that cause customers to go away, and ironically enough, they lose the job because they don't have enough demand. And so part of your challenge, if you're a manager, if you're a leader, is to, or a parent even, make sure that people are channeling their fear in effective directions. And it begins by confronting your fears, just standing up to it, and that's cornerstone number 1, confrontation. One of my favorite cartoons, this guy is standing there in jail, hanging onto the 2 prison bars, and there's only 2 bars. He could go that way or that way, but all he can see is the bars in front of him. And how many people are trapped by fear just like that? They're trapped in jobs they hate because they don't have the courage to let go of the bars, go back to school, try something new, start the business they've always said they wanted to run. People who are trapped in bad relationships because they don't have the courage to say to the other person, "You cannot treat me that way. I'm standing up for myself now." People trapped in debt because they don't have the courage to cut up their credit cards and change their spending habits. And confronting fear begins by knowing the enemy, knowing what it is you're up against. And there are 4 terms, actually 3 terms we use interchangeably, and I'm going to add a 4th. Anxiety, fear, worry, and despair. You know, we say, "Oh, I'm really anxious about this," or "I'm afraid of this," or "I'm worried about this." Those are 3 different emotional states. Anxiety is a generalized sense of dread. It's like the black cloud out there on the horizon. You're not sure why you have these big glasses that say doom on, but the world just feels threatening. You feel this sense of dread. Fear is specific. If anxiety is a black cloud out there, fear is the raging storm right overhead right now. You're afraid of something. And what psychologists tell us is that anxiety is such a painful emotion that it tries to become fear. It tries to create an object that it can attach to. So instead of just being anxious about something, you find something to be afraid of, whether or not that's warranted. And worry is taking today's fears and projecting them out into the future. It's the forecast of more storms, worse storms down the road. And despair is what happens when you give in to those first three and you totally give up hope. And again, the ultimately quotable Winston Churchill said, the one thing we must never do is despair. Falling into that emotional swamp, giving into despair. When you are in a state of high anxiety, and it's very important to understand, to recognize this in yourself, because three bad things happen. One, it distorts your memories. When you have a very high state of anxiety, all of your past failures seem this big and completely likely to be repeated, whereas your past successes seem like, oh, that was nothing, that was insignificant. When you're in a state of high anxiety, your current perceptions are distorted. Your problems, your challenges seem a whole lot bigger than what they really are, and the resources you have to draw on and your own capabilities seem a whole lot smaller and inadequate. And your future vision is distorted. When you're in a state of high anxiety, you look out to the future, it's really hard to see that successful sunset where you ride victorious off into the sunset, because what your mind is more focused on is that failure where you fall victim to the dragon or whatever it is. And just recognizing that will help you realize, I'm not seeing reality. My past is a lot better than I'm remembering. My current circumstances, I'm in much better shape than I think I am or than it feels like. And I have much more opportunities for the future than what is apparent to me now. Sometimes just recognizing what state am I feeling right now is the most important step you can take to stand up to it and confront it. And two other things about confronting your fears. One is, think about why you're afraid of anything. It's because you care. You know, the reason you're afraid to submit the manuscript to a publisher and risk rejection is because you've put your heart and soul into it and you care. The reason you're afraid to start the business is it might fail and you would be humiliated. You would let down your investors. You don't want to do that. You care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be afraid. And as Stephen Pressfield, the author of many novels, but he wrote a little book called The War of Art on how to overcome the barriers, mostly fear, that prevent you from being creative. He says, fear can be a guide. The bigger the fear, the more important it is for the health and the well-being of your soul that you do it, because that fear is telling you, this is important to you. That's why you're afraid. That's why you care. And I want to share a very practical strategy for confronting fear. Remember earlier I talked about metaphorical visualization, the janitor in your attic, you know, imagining a janitor to erase negative self-talk. This is a very similar kind of thing. Whatever it is you're afraid of, visualize it. Create a mental picture. Maybe it's a fire-breathing dragon or something like that that represents your fear of being facing rejection if you make a sales call or whatever, you know, having your manuscript sent back to you. Get up in the morning. When you get out of bed, imagine this dragon standing there at the door. Put on your toughest face. And I literally mean do this. Go, ah, as loud as you can. Visualize the dragon running away and do it over and over again. Do it to the point where when you're out there in the real world, you can just go, and you don't have to scream, you don't have to yell, but you can visualize the fear running away, and then as fast as you can pick up the phone and make the call, or whatever it is you've been afraid to do. That simple lion roar, actually that lion roar has gotten me in trouble when I've had 200 or 300 people doing it and disrupting the room next door. But for you personally, that simple roar and watching fear evaporate can help you walk through those prison bars and help you make the transition to the next cornerstone, which is transformation. Because really, all fear is, it's an emotional energy. And it's your choice, really, whether it paralyzes you or catalyzes you to take action. That's all it is. Think about this. The physical symptoms of terror and exhilaration are identical. Your eyes are open wide, your heart is pounding, you're breathing fast, your palms are sweaty. The physical symptoms are identical. The only difference is, what's the name you give to it? Oh, I'm terrified, or oh, I'm so excited. Physical symptoms are the same. How do you interpret those symptoms? And then ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? And when you think about it, when you really analyze your fears, quite often it's trying to tell you one of two things. Either something might be about to happen that you're not ready for. Isn't that what test anxiety is? And it's trying to tell you, if you are worried about passing this test, leave the bar and go to the library. Or it might be trying to tell you you're on the wrong path. Maybe you're on the wrong path in life. The anxiety that comes with midlife crisis, that's what that's all about. It's this wake-up call. Maybe you're on the wrong path. Maybe it's time to change gears. And here's a very practical strategy to help you make that transformation of fear paralyzing you into something that catalyzes you. And that's this. Give fear a name. Turn it into a problem. Give fear a name, it becomes just a problem. It's easier to solve problems than it is to conquer fear. Fear is invisible. How do you deal with something that you can't see? Problems have tangible shape and form. You can deal with it. So look at an example. If your fear is losing a job, in a world of today, that's not an unreasonable fear for a lot of people. What's the problem? And the problem is you're not indispensable. If you were so valuable to your company that they couldn't afford to lose you, you wouldn't worry about losing the job. Now, of course, nobody's indispensable, but in any job, there are things you can do to make yourself more valuable. You can get more education and training, learn new skills. You can have a better attitude at work. You can volunteer for more projects, take on the Goodwill project or whatever it is. You can bring in new ideas. Say I was at Disney and I noticed how they managed long lines. I wonder if we could do the same thing in our emergency room. Those things tend to make you more valuable for your employer. Oh, and guess what? If you lose the job anyway, but you've done all of those things, you've met new people, you've got new skills, it'll be all that much quicker that you find an even better job much sooner. Give fear a name. Whatever it is you're afraid of, give it a name. Turn it into a problem, and once you figure out what the problem is, work on solving the problem. But that gets us to the third cornerstone, which is action. Action is the difference between wishful thinking and positive thinking. Wishful thinking is hoping for something and waiting for someone else to make it happen. If only I won the lottery. Positive thinking is expecting something and then working to make it happen. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great American essayist, said, "Do the things you fear, and the death of the fear is certain." Og Mandino, a more recent writer, the late Og Mandino, said, "Action turns the lion of terror into an ant of equanimity." And here's something you may not have thought about. When you're all balled up with fear, sometimes the first action is to do some research. Fear breeds in ignorance. And the more enlightened you become, the more you can read about something, study something, the more facts you get, the bigger picture you have, the better able you are to deal with fear. And in today's world with Google, with Wikipedia, it is so much easier to gain more information. So sometimes just opening a book or going to your computer and asking good questions can help you clarify what action do I need to take. And then engage in what I call prototype thinking. A prototype is simply a model. It is a next approximation of something. And one of the exercises we do when I do my Spark a Dream workshop at Grand Canyon every year, I have everybody create a prototype for their dream. And there's nothing you can dream of that you can't think of a simple model prototype. You want to write a book? Write a chapter, write an article, write a letter to the editor, do an outline. You want to start a business but you don't have the resources? Sign up for Mary Kay. Learn how to sell products. There's always something you can do that gets you to that next step, that gets you started. I love this story. When Lee Iacocca became the chairman and CEO of Chrysler Corporation, the company was going down the tubes. And of course, instead of cutting employees and laying people off, he went to Congress. He got $1 billion loan, back when $1 billion was a lot of money. And he invented the minivan. His company invented the minivan. They saved the company. And at one point, he called his design engineers in and he said, "We don't have a convertible. We need a convertible. Give me a model, a prototype for a convertible." They came back the next day with this plan, and he looked at it. He said, 9 months we'll have a prototype. And he banged his fist on the desk and he said, "You people still don't understand me, do you? I want a convertible. I want a prototype. I want it now. Go down to the parking lot with a hacksaw and cut the top off a car." And it created that sense of urgency, prototype thinking. There's always some way you can prototype something. And the last thing I'll say about taking action is this. You have to do it in spite of the fact that you're feeling fear. If you try to wait for fear to go away, remember, the absence of fear is brain damage. Take the advice of Mark Twain. He said, "Be brave. Act as if you're brave. Even if you're not, nobody else can tell the difference." Fake it till you make it. Maybe it's never more applicable than right here in taking action, even in the face of fear. And the fourth cornerstone of courage is connection. Fear breeds in isolation. And you know, when you've just lost a job, when bad things have happened, that's when we most kind of want to pull into ourselves, and that's when it's most important for you to reach out and make connection with other people. A lot of my volunteer work is with support groups. I've spent many evenings with cold coffee and hard cookies and people who have cancer, people who have addictions, people who have had a terrible tragedy, you know, losing a child or some such thing. And, you know, I've never seen anybody leave a support group meeting worse than they came in. I mean, they still have cancer, they're still an addict, what they've lost is not coming back to them. But they do have something new. They have a little more courage, a little more hope, a little more inspiration. You know, I always wonder, why can't the workplace be like that? This is one of the secrets of successful support groups, is this sense of connection, this sense of sharing. And the more afraid you are, the more important it is for you to either join an existing support network or to go out and create your own. Napoleon Hill called it a mastermind group. You call it a support group, call it whatever you want. But reaching out and making a human connection with other people is so important when you're struggling with anxiety and fear and worry. Let's wrap up with this thought. And I want to fall back on what Winston Churchill said, and that is the one thing: it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have anxiety. We all do. It's okay to worry about things, especially if it guides you to what action do I need to take. The one thing you must never do is fall into the swamp of emotional despair and give up hope, because there is always hope. Churchill said, there is time and there is hope if we combine courage and patience. In today's world, maybe more than ever, certainly more than in a very long time, courage is what we need. Remember, fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. In the next value, when we talk about core action value number 5, perseverance, I'll add to that by saying fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. Perseverance is making that decision every day, day after day. So let me challenge you between now and our next getting together. Think about, what are you afraid of? How can you turn that into a problem? And what actions can you take to stand up to your fear, to make fear your ally and not let it be your enemy, to make it catalyze you and not allow it to paralyze you? I'll see you next time.